everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a slightly different video for you guys. I'm going to show you how you can perfect your brows. Okay, so I already have my foundation done and I'm actually going to film another tutorial after this, so excuse the half finished face. But I thought in between I'll film a quick video on how I do my brows. Maybe it gives you guys some tips on how you would like to do them, and I'll share all of the knowledge that I have on brows just from my own experience of using the products and what I feel is best and what fits my face. So let's get to it. Okay, so now you're really zoomed in, so let's get to it. So the first thing I like to do is just brush through my brows to comb the hairs into place. The trick for me is always to brush up here in the front and then brush it out, and always brushing it slightly upwards, because if I brush them down you can see it looks really weird. So you just want to brush them up and away from your lids. Okay, and now once you're happy with them, now we can move on to the second step. Step 2 for me is always setting them with a bit of gel. Here I'm going to use the NYX brow set. This is the eyebrow cake powder and this is in Brunette because I am brunette. All I'm going to do is take the gel-like consistency here, and with the really tiny little spoolie that comes with the set, I'm just going to dip it in there and then just brush it again, following the same motion upwards and outwards into my brows to set the hairs in place. The reason I like to do the gel after this, I actually saw Desi do this in one of her videos, Desi Perkins, I'll put her link down below. I like to put the gel in just because if I put the gel on after I add any powder or anything like that, it tends to take the product away and then I end up having gaps in between my brows. So I much prefer to put the gel on first, let it set, and then add a little bit of gel afterwards, more of like a colored gel, but you'll see that later. Okay, so now we're done with that. We're just gonna let them set for a second, let the gel harden a little, because if it's too wet it's going to leave really streaky marks when you apply the powder on top. So we'll just let them dry for a second and I'll be right back. Okay, so now the brows are set from the gel, and now we're going to move on to shaping them and filling any sparse areas in that I feel that would make my brows the way that I like them. So the general rule when it comes to the color of your brows is that if you have darker hair, then your brows should be a few shades lighter, and if you have very light hair, then it should be a few shades darker. You don't want to match the brows up too much because it can look a little freaky on your face. Believe me, I've seen it around, it doesn't look that good. And you don't want your brows to be too dark because your brows are supposed to shape your face and you don't want them to overpower the look. You just want to keep it as natural looking as possible. Using the NYX cake powder, there are 2 shades. You can see them here. There is a lighter brown shade and a darker brown shade. We're actually going to start with a darker brown shade just to shape the brows a little bit. So to do this, I like to use a small angled brush. This one I just got from my local like drugstore or cheap store called the Hema. And this is just a really small angled brush, nice and sharp so it can cleanly draw the lines. All we're gonna do is dip the tip. We're not going to smother the brush in the products, we're just going to dip the tip, brush off any excess, and now we're going to slightly outline the brows. Starting here, not too far in, because as you can see I have quite a big gap over here, so for me I like to just start here and gently lay the product down and start lining out my brows. The general shape that I like for my brows is actually to keep the underside as round and arched as possible, and then the top of the brow to have a little bit more of like an angled arch. I don't know why, I just do, it fits my face really well. So you just want to slowly take your time. Once you get more practice you'll get faster at this, but I'm just taking my time here so that I can show you how I like to draw out the bottom of my brows. And for the tail, I like to keep it relatively thin. I don't like to keep them all one thickness all the way out. I like to have it thick here and then slowly get thinner on the outside. And as you can see, it's not too defined, it's just enough to create a little bit more of a clean brow shape at the bottom. We're then going to take the same color and we're going to gently and very lightly start filling in the sparse areas on the inside of the brow. Because as I said, I have quite a few gaps on that side, and it's only on my right side, which is quite annoying because then my brows are actually completely different shapes, but I work with it. So you just want to gently fill them in. Now you don't want to make the inside of your brows darker than the outside. Usually the general rule is to keep the tip of the brow or the tail of the brow darker than the inside, because the darker the inside of the brows are, the angrier you're going to look. You're always going to look like you're frowning, or that this side is very heavy. It's the same when you contour. You don't want to put too much of the contour here on your eyes. You want to keep this really light and this darker so that it creates a nice elongated shape. The same goes with your brows. You don't want to create the inside of your face too dark because it's going to make it sink in and make you look very angry and not a very friendly face. So now we have finished the darker shade in the palette, and I'm only keeping that here on the bottom part of my brow and a little bit just to fill in the sparse areas to match my hair color. And now we're going to lighten up the brows a bit more and give it a little bit more of the shape that I want using the lighter shade. Again, a general rule for your brows is to make the bottom of the brow darker than the top and the outside of the brow darker than the inside. So you want to have a nice gentle blended effect between the colors. So again, taking the same brush, dipping the tip into the lightest shade, we're going to start on the outside of the brow and start creating the pointed shape that I like to use on my brows. This doesn't fit with everybody's face, so you just have to play around with the shapes that you think suit your face best. So all I'm going to do is start applying the product on the tail of the brow. Not too much, because as I said, I like to keep it nice and thin. And then I'm just going to start creating a little bit more of a pointed arch on the top. Now, as you can see, it's already getting a little darker here. So all I'm going to do is wipe my brush off, dip it back in to the product, the lightest brown shade. And now I'm just going to feather very gently to create some natural hair strokes on the inside, because as I said, I like the outer ends of my brows to be much darker than the inside. Don't lift the high part too high because I don't want my brows to be very thick. I just want them to be nice on my brow bone. You can feel your brow bone here. I like to have the brow bone exposed here so I can add a nice highlight to lift the brow up just a little bit more, but I like to have it nice and rounded at the bottom, slightly more pointed on the top. You can see here I have a sort of point going on the top and keep it nice and round on the bottom. So I think I am done with this brow, and now we're going to move on to the other brow, and we'll do it nice and quick, but just so you can see the steps through one more time. So again, I'm going to go in with a darker shade, and we're going to apply this on the bottom of the brows just to shape out the bottom, keeping it nice and light on the inner parts and keeping it darker on the outer parts. You always want to match your brows side to side and keeping them as equal as possible. Michelle Phan always used to say that they're sisters, not twins, so you don't want to make them look identical because there's nothing on your face that is perfectly identical to one another. So you just want to make sure that the arch is relatively the same. And again, we're going to take the darker brown and we're going to feather in on the inside of the brow, just to fill in those sparse areas. Okay, and now we're gonna move on to the lighter brown shade again, just to create the shape. So again, starting at the tail and then just creating the nice arch, making sure I don't go too high on one brow and not the other. And now you see why I like to let the gel set first before moving on with the color, because if I don't let it set, then I won't be able to do these nice light brush strokes with the product. It'll just look like a Sharpie brow, and nobody likes Sharpie brows. When it comes to the tail of your brow, you don't want to make the dip too low, like you don't want to connect it from here down to the corners of your eyes, because it's going to make you look really droopy and very hang face. You want to keep your face as lifted and as light as possible, so you want to create the tail of your brow to more come out. Some women like their brows to be much more high, so they don't actually dip down as much as mine do, but I prefer mine to be much more arched with my face because I have quite a round face, so I like it to shape my face nice and smoothly. I think smoothly is the word. I don't know, I'm trying to multitask, it's not going very well. Now you just want to fill in any other parts of the brow to make them as even as possible. Okay, I'm pretty much done with my brows. This is how I will usually leave them when I'm going to work or when I'm just going out for the day and I don't want to spend too much time on my brows. So you could leave them like this, or you can go one step further and you can add another gel on top. Say if you're going out for the evening, or if you're going to be in quite a warm climate, you want to make sure that your brows can stay. You don't want them to shift, you don't want them to melt off, because that is the worst. So I like to use this Catrice Cosmetics brow gel. This is actually called the eyebrow filler for perfecting and shaping. This is perfect for me because it's not really about the color, it's more just to keep everything nice and set. But just in case I rub off any of the product, the color is there to save the day. So all we're going to do is take the applicator out, wipe off any bits of excess because we don't want to have splodges all over the brows, and very, very gently we're going to apply this just on top. And I avoid this on the inside of my brow. Like I said, I like the ends of the brow to be darker. So I don't take it from here, I take it from the middle and out. And the same again in the middle, again lifting it from down to up, so you want to lift it up and out. And now we're done. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Now I've shown you how I do my brows. Please don't think that this is the way that you should do your brow, but maybe it gives you some tips that you can apply when doing your brows to make them look as natural as possible. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss any new videos that I'll be bringing out really soon. I hope you are happy and healthy, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.